Let's dig deeper on these developments with Stephen Pifer. He is the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. He's also with the Center for International Security and Cooperation at Stanford University. Ambassador, thanks so much for being with us. What do you make of Hegseth softening some of his comments, as President Trump put it? Do you agree with Senator Wicker that they were a mistake?
I think the last 3 days have probably flabbergasted both our European allies and our Ukrainian partners. The Secretary of Defense on Wednesday said Ukraine cannot be in NATO. That's a reversal of NATO policy and American policy, and he did that without talking to any of the European allies first. And then that was walked back, or maybe not walked back. He also then made the point about Ukraine having to lose territory. So right off the bat, he's given concessions to two major Russian positions. President Trump then speaks with President Putin before he talks to President Zelensky, and then says he plans to meet several times with President Putin. That goes against a de facto policy of the last 3 years among major Western leaders that you do not meet with Putin. And then the vice president today, at a speech where I think everybody's looking for him to kind of clarify things, he ignores the elephant in the room. He doesn't talk about the Russian-Ukraine war and instead talks about democratic values, which did not get a very good reception.
How did you read those comments from J.D. Vance, Ambassador? Because he is comparing some European leaders to these Cold War autocrats while at the same time demanding that Europeans step up their efforts to ensure Ukrainian security.
Yeah, I think it plays badly because, of course, the vice president himself will not say that Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election. And so I think that doesn't make him the strongest person in democracy. But this is also, I think, another point where I hope that the vice president is correcting it now in Munich, but it doesn't look like President Trump talked to any senior Europeans before he announced his conversation with Putin. And again, the Trump administration wants the Europeans to do a lot. It wants the Europeans, for example, to provide either a peacekeeping force or a security force for Ukraine. So you've got to be talking to the Europeans now and include them at the beginning if we're going to want the Europeans to play the kind of role that the Trump administration envisages.
On that question of the security force that would oversee Ukraine's borders, I wonder what you make of Ukrainian's president warning that Russia is preparing to attack a NATO country next year, saying that Russia will renew its offensive on Ukraine if the country doesn't receive sufficient security guarantees. I wonder if you believe him, if you have any reason to doubt him.
Well, Boris, I'm not sure Russia is going to attack a NATO country next year. But here's the worry. If Russia wins the war against Ukraine, either on the battlefield or because of a poorly brokered negotiating settlement, Russia is going to pose a much greater threat to Europe, and Vladimir Putin will be emboldened. And after he has a couple of years to rebuild and regenerate his military, would he attack a NATO country? Most experts now would say, no, that would be crazy. But in 2018 or 2019, if you'd asked most experts, would Putin have launched the kind of assault on Ukraine that he launched in 2022, they would have said, no, that would be crazy. We underestimate Vladimir Putin's ambitions at our peril, and we also need to bear in mind Putin is capable of enormous miscalculations, such as the one that he made 3 years ago when he sent his army into Ukraine expecting to win in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, Ambassador Stephen Pifer, appreciate you sharing your point of view. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.